Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about the Flamingo palette from Violet Voss. This released, oh gosh, a couple of weeks ago? Maybe 3? I'm not sure. It recently released on the Violet Voss website as well as on the Sephora website, and here in Canada it's retailing for $60 through Sephora. You get 20 shadows for that price. And you have a mix of mattes and shimmers, as well as a couple duochromes and some toppers. So you basically get a little bit of everything here in this palette. Obviously the colors that are included are very summer appropriate, very vacation-y, if you will, and not quite on the pastel side, although there are, this one here, I guess you could argue is a little bit more of a pastel, but nice, bright, summery, warm, tropical feeling shadows, with the exception of the black down here. Now on the Sephora website, sorry, I put my thumb in it, so now I've got black shadow everywhere. On the Sephora website, they classify this as a soft black, but it's black. So it kind of stands in stark contrast to the rest of them. I think it was an odd choice. I did film this look. I filmed 2 other looks as well, so I will have a 3 looks using this palette video coming up soon. And in that I do have an eye look where I used the black. And I will say it plays nicely with the shadows that I used it with. So for that look, I used this shade here, this one here, and then just the black. And it really did work well. Like the eyeshadow look, I actually really loved it. It will be the second look included in my 3 look video. If you follow me on Instagram, you've already seen the look, but all that to say the black worked well. It wasn't difficult to blend out, and it does have its place in the palette, although personally, if this was my palette, I think I probably would have included a rich navy blue or a deep purple, something like that that's going to play a little bit more easily with the shadows that are in here. We'll get to some swatches, but I did want to say these shadows they're not super pigmented. They're not disappointing, but they're not fully rich, super vibrant, knock you out of your seat kind of shades. That can be a good thing, that can be a negative thing. It really depends on what you're looking for in a palette. Personally, I don't mind it because I find that increases the wearability of these shadows, but I did want to mention it in case you're looking at this thinking you're going to get a really bold orange out of this. Yes, it performs well, it's not patchy, it blends nicely, but it doesn't translate onto the eye as rich as it does in the pan. So let's talk about the packaging for just a moment, and then we'll get into some swatches. This Too Faced, take note, is how you do cute. It's freaking adorable. I love the little summery colors. I love that the color story that you see on the outer packaging translates onto the inner packaging. You get a great big mirror there, and again, a couple cute little accents here with the flip-flops and then the little flamingo down here as well. I like that the shade names are printed on the inside. I like that it's black lettering on yellow background instead of white lettering like some brands have done. So overall, I like the packaging. It is quite sturdy. It folds back onto itself, which I really like. And it has a magnetic clasp as well, which is quite secure. It doesn't, well, fuck. It doesn't fly open. So now that we've got the packaging out of the way, let's do some swatches. All right, first up is going to be Flamingo. It's a matte coral shade. Then we've got Donut. This is one of the toppers here. It's called Flip-Flops. And then this one over here is called Bikini. Next up is Oceanfront and Tidal Wave, which is effing gorgeous, by the way, and Beach Ball and then watermelon here. This shade is lemonade, and this is pineapple. So as you can see, I've run out of real estate on my arm, so I'm going to wipe it off and do the second half of the palette as well. But you can see these shimmers. These shimmers though, before I do that, like let's just, what the hell is wrong with my arm? I must have been leaning on something. Ignore that. So okay, so if you're new to my channel, how I do swatches, I don't prime my arm, I just run my finger around the pan 2-3 times and then one swipe down as you saw. I don't prime it just so that we can see really what we're working with. Finger swatches can be deceptive. I've said that in previous videos. I'll probably continue to say it. What you see in a finger swatch isn't necessarily what translates onto the eye, but it gives you an idea of at least what the shades are that you're working with here in this palette. I can say, for example, this shade here, Flamingos, when applied with a brush, doesn't translate as pigmented as it does in the finger swatch. However, this one here, which is called Beach Ball, it really does, and that could just be because it's a deeper color to begin with. But you can see these shimmer shadows are freaking gorgeous, and even this, what they classify as a topper, still could stand alone on its own and be beautiful on the eyes. Going in with the second half of the palette, this is Popsicle, this is Sunbathe, Tidal Wave, which is a duochrome sort of blue-silver shift, and Coral here. Here we have Island, Sand, Seashell is the other topper, and Pinwheel. Oh, it didn't work out quite so well. There we go. Last two are Sandals and Sunnies. Again, I find when putting these shades here in particular on the eyes, they do not go on as pigmented as the finger swatch shows. Same with Sand here. The black, however, does pack a punch, and as you can see, there's no patchiness in that swatch, but it is black. It's not a deep gray, it's not what I would consider to be a soft black, it is black. Overall, I have to say that I am very impressed with these shadows. The fact that some of these go on lightly when using a brush, it's really not a big deterrent for me. If I wanted super impactful shadows, I could go for a pressed pigment. These don't claim to be that. They don't claim to be bold in-your-face shades, so it's not setting anybody up for disappointment, but I do want to bring that to your attention in case that's what you think this palette's going to be. There are some changes that I would make to it though. I already talked about the black shade. I probably would have switched that out for, honestly, a deep purple, I think, is what's kind of missing in this palette. But also, there are some redundancies. Okay, so here's Sandals. This one is Sunbathe, and this is Popsicle. These two shades, especially when applied and blended out, are very similar. There is obviously a difference between them, but they're both matte finishes, they're both warm orangey colors, and they are quite close. I think there could have been room for a different shade if you had taken out, say, Sunbathe here, Sunbathe over here. Keep the richer of the two oranges in there and replace that with maybe a green or a red shade, something like that. With the pinks as well, there is, again, not dupes of each other, but a bit of redundancy in my opinion. So we've got Flamingos, Watermelon, and Coral right here. So again, Flamingos, Watermelon, and Coral. Again, like I said, not dupes. There is a slight difference in the finish in that Watermelon has a hint of shimmer in it. You really can't see it once it's on the eye, and you really just kind of have to look in the pan in order to see little tiny flecks of gold. In fact, I don't think the camera's even going to pick it up, to be honest. There are little tiny flecks of gold in there, but nothing that when applied to the eye, you're going to be like, oh, it's a shimmery shadow. You wouldn't know that. So again, I think keep watermelon in there, but switch out one of these two for another shade. But I'm really overall just happy to see Violet Voss break away from 35 pans. This one's 20. That's about as much as I can handle, and then I just get super overwhelmed. If there's way too many choices, I just don't even know where to start. And I'm glad to see them move away from, here's 35 variations of taupe. More of this, please, Violet Voss. You're on the right track, and your shadows rock my socks. So I'm quite happy that I bought this. I really don't have any regrets. I've really enjoyed every eye look that I have done with it. Obviously, I used it today. The shadows blend nicely with themselves as well, which is also something that I think is very important. Sometimes with palettes, an example's escaping me, but Subculture from ABH, some of those shades don't like to layer on top of others in the same palette. Just something in the formula, something in the colors, I don't know what it is, I'm not a chemist, but sometimes when you try to layer them on, they just become stubborn, don't want to blend, they become a bit muddy. These ones blend into each other nicely. I even found with this eye look that I'm doing here, because I have the yellow on the inside and then I put the minty sort of color here into the transition area and the crease and blended it out. You could see like a little hint of green forming just because they were blending so nicely together. So I'm really impressed with the quality of the palette. $60 in my opinion is a little high. I mean, you are getting 20 generous sized pans, and just, I really don't mean any shade to Violet Voss at all, like at all. I don't know if they've earned the $60 a palette status yet. That's just my opinion. Obviously, I paid the price for it. And I am happy with it, so I can't say that it's, you know, ridiculously expensive. It's not Natasha Denona levels, but I think a $50 price tag would have been a little bit more appropriate. Especially that this really is designed to be like a seasonal kind of palette. This isn't really the color scheme that the average consumer is going to reach for on a day-to-day basis. We'll put it that way. I don't know that it was necessarily designed for the average consumer, but I'll leave it at that. The last point to make is that this is limited edition. So if you like what you see and you're okay with the price, jump on it. I don't know how long it's going to last, but if you're one who suffers from FOMO, go get it. And look forward to my 3 looks with 1 palette video. I'm aiming to put this one up on Friday and then the other to follow on Sunday. I'm trying to establish a posting schedule, if only to keep myself organized. So I'm trying to do Sunday, Tuesday, Friday. Don't hold me to that, because working mom, life just kind of laughs at my plans and decides what I'm going to do for me. So that's the goal at any rate. So anyways, I'm going to cut it off here because now I'm just rambling. I'm going to thank you sincerely for taking the time to watch. You have no idea how much it means to me that people are checking out my videos, commenting, subscribing. It really makes my heart so happy. So thank you very much, and I will see you in my next video. Until then, just please be a decent human being. Bye for now.